There are two ways that species adapt to the ever-changing environment. The first way is we're most familiar with, which is natural selection. And a classic example of that is, let's say, your cat or a tiger, born with a lot of instinct and a small capacity for learning. They produce lots of offspring over their lifetime. Each offspring is slightly different genetically, and nature selects which of those offspring is most suitable for the changing environment, and therefore the species adapts to the change. And they don't require much learning, and that's why to have a domestic cat go feral, it doesn't need a program. They're pretty much born with all the instincts they need to survive and just learn a small amount from their mother. Now, there's another way, which is actually allows a species to adapt far more quickly, and that's through culture. And ourselves and orangutans adapt to the environment primarily by culture. So instead of being born with a hardwired brain with a lot of instinct, we're born with a vacant brain, and our parents or the orangutan mother, in the case of the orangutan, programs the culture through this vacant brain through a long childhood period. And orangutans are the slowest reproducing species in the world. Sumatran orangutans, for example, have their first infant at 15, and there's 9 years between individual infants, and they cycle up to 8 years. So they invest a lot of energy rather than using instinct to adapt to the environment by programming culture into their infants and next generation. And this allows them to adapt really quickly. The one problem with this system is you're investing heavily in a small number of offspring, because you have to put the energy in to develop that culture. This means once a predator comes on the scene, and humans are the ultimate predator, the species cannot survive because they can't cope with high infant mortality or high rates of mortality in the population because of the slow reproduction rates. And this is why orangutans in particular are so prone to extinction, because they're slow reproduction rates, because like us, an intelligent being, they adapt to the environment through culture. However, culture, although it's highly adaptable as compared to natural selection on its own, it can't adapt as quickly as sometimes we need it to. This is why indigenous communities all over the world, when the environment changes suddenly by the introduction of a technologically superior group of people, the culture cannot adapt quickly enough, and the people who are in that culture become dysfunctional and marginalized because of the inability to adapt and change their culture as quickly as needed to adapt to a very quickly changing environment. Now, globally, we're actually going through the same thing. Fossil fuels, competitive economies, unsustainable agriculture and development. These are all things which are relevant to a culture where we didn't have the capacity to eat into future production of the planet, or destroy the actual planet which is serving us. And so conservatives, in their very nature, want to keep culture the same or bring it back to some ideologically better past, However, this is destructive. What we need to do is adapt very quickly in the culture, how we deal with each other and how we interact with the environment, renewables, a shared economy, an online economy. And therefore we can then be adjusted properly to the planet and ourselves for a prosperous future, and essentially develop a new culture to save ourselves and, of course, our beloved orangutans.